Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining in another week. We have a great show planned for you. Later on, I'll have with me Wheelhouse Creatives Mike Anthony and John Blackmore. We'll be talking all about the NFL season. Did a college football preview a couple weeks ago, but time for the NFL to kick off. But first, we'll start with some of our usual features. And we're going to start with some current events. First of all, in the political world, Senator Joe Manchin making a big announcement this week that he will not seek to run for governor of the state of West Virginia. He'd been saying for quite some time that he was trying to make up his mind, that sometimes he would change his mind a couple times a day as to whether or not he was going to run and give up his Senate seat. But he has decided that he will stay in the United States Senate, said he thinks he can do the most good for West Virginia there, and I think he happens to be right. I also happen to think that we have a great candidate for governor in West Virginia already on the slate on the Democratic side, and Stephen Smith, who was my guest on this show last week. I really enjoyed having Stephen on the show, hearing what he had to say, because he's really looking at doing things unlike anyone else running for office that I've heard before, which is that he is going around, he's done over 100 town hall meetings where he has talked to people, and he sits down and talks with drug addicts and finds out, how could you be helped to get out of this? How could you recover? How can you get back to getting a job and doing those types of things? He sits down with single moms and says, what can the DHHR do to better help you? He talks with small business owners and says, how can West Virginia help small business owners instead of out-of-state large corporations who are getting all these tax breaks? And then he's gone around and recruited people in every single county to be county captains and leaders of different constituencies, like teachers can't wait, veterans can't wait, all these different groups. And I think that it's really a different approach, a fresh approach, where maybe the people really are going to have a chance to have a voice for once. So glad to hear that Senator Manchin is staying in the Senate, and really think that Stephen Smith could do really good things if he's given an opportunity to be governor of the state of West Virginia. Some local news also, Electo closing the Ohio Valley Medical Center really on a much quicker time frame than what they had said they would do. Close down the emergency room, close down the acute services, and basically with a little over 24 hours notice to everyone that was going to happen. Not the way to do business. Look, I'm a big believer that everyone can run their business the way they want to run it. If you own something and you want to do it a certain way, that's up to you as long as it's within the boundaries of the law. However, when you employ that many people and you are supposed to be taking care of that many people in the community, and you say, hey, we're going to close in 60 days, and then just all of a sudden you just pull the rug out from underneath everyone, that is not the way to do it. I don't care whether they own the company or not. There are things that make financial sense, but there are also things that make good moral sense in business. And I had a class when I was at Notre Dame called Business Ethics. It was taught by Father Oliver Williams, who I thought was a really tremendous priest. And he taught business ethics all over the world. He would spend 6 months at Notre Dame, then he would go to South America for 6 weeks. He'd spend time over in South Africa. And Father Ollie, has talked a lot about, not only looking how you make money or how you don't lose money, but also doing things the right way. And I just question whether or not this decision by Electo was made with that in mind. And I'd like to see more companies thinking about the ethics involved with business and not just the financial repercussions of what they're doing when they take steps like that. So very disappointing move by them. Hopefully, some of those services that were provided by the Ohio Valley Medical Center can be taken over by others. I know that the local legislative leaders and officials, and also some of those in the medical field, are looking at ways that they can help. But there's so many services that are needed, and really scary when some of those that need them the most are left without those services, particularly in the psychiatric area and others. So, God bless to all those employees that are looking for jobs right now, and to those patients who need services that perhaps aren't being provided right now. A legal tip. A lot of the leases that were signed 5 years ago with the oil and gas industry by local landowners are coming up. And an important tip is, don't just automatically renew your lease. Have it looked at by a lawyer and make sure that the terms are suitable and favorable to you. They may not have been the first time, and you may not even realize it. This is an opportunity perhaps to say, okay, let's get a better lease this time, not just in terms of financial incentives, but also there's certain language in there that gives you more or less control. Certain language that allows the company to take deductions for expenses, others that don't. So you want to make sure that all of your rights are protected, not just the financial terms. So have a lawyer take a look at that, or someone else. Jeremy McGraw at my firm, Bordas & Bordas, does a great job with that. He's become really as well versed in the oil and gas industry as anybody I know. And then there's been so much activity that we actually started a separate company called Bordas Mineral Management that deals a lot with this leasing and also looking at the royalties and whether or not people are being paid appropriately, because sometimes you look at their checks and companies are taking deductions they shouldn't take. They're not reporting correctly how much gas was taken out from underneath your land, and people just don't know. They get a check and they say, hey, I'm happy to get $2,000 this month. I've never gotten that before. Instead, well, maybe it should have been $6,000, and nobody wants to leave $4,000 just sitting out there. So important to make sure that your rights are protected in that regard. And I'll give you a quote this week as well. Always one of my favorite things to do, and I think with the NFL kicking off, I wanted to give you one from Vince Lombardi, who many consider to be one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach of all time in the NFL. And he said this: football is like life. It requires perseverance, self-denial, hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and respect for authority. And a great quote there from Coach Lombardi. And one of the reasons I've always loved football is that I think it does teach you so many things that you can use on throughout your life. It's a team game. It really is. I mean, it's not like going out and playing tennis or golf, sports that I both enjoy, but you're out there on your own in golf trying to hit the ball, do the best you can. You're really trying to get the best score you can get. Same thing in tennis. You're trying to beat that one person across from you. Maybe in doubles you have a partner. It's a little bit different. But football, truly relies each play on 11 guys working in unison to do what they need to do. And then in turn, it requires 11 guys going against them on the other side of the ball in practice, and it requires backups, and it requires people on special teams and scout team and all these different things. So, I think it teaches you so much about life and having to work with people and overcome obstacles and fight through things and waiting, patience and waiting for your turn and perseverance when things are, against you and fighting through it. So I know some of the very toughest times in my life that I've had to get through. I think back to my days of playing football when I didn't think I could get through something, and I did, and that allows me to get through whatever I'm facing in my life now as an adult. So I think it's a great game. Glad to see so many people participating in it in so many different ways, and glad to see the NFL season will be kicking off here this week. Speaking of which, we need to take a break, but when we come back, I'll have with me Wheelhouse Creatives Mike Anthony and John Blackmore. We'll be talking all about this NFL season, including some playoff predictions. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show. People in nursing homes are some of the most vulnerable members of our society. They're there because they can't take care of themselves. Those facilities have a duty to take care of our loved ones, and when they don't, it's important they're held accountable. We've not only collected record results against negligent nursing homes, but more importantly, we've helped so many families get the answers and closure they so badly needed.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Neil Brown. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week, even better, I've got two guests with me, Mike Anthony and John Blackmore of Wheelhouse Creative. We're going to be talking about the NFL season, which kicks off here this weekend. And guys, thanks for being here on the show.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Of course, you guys have both followed sports for a long time. Mike, of course, longtime sports anchor here at WTRF. John, longtime involved with sports at WKKX radio station, and followed the Steelers and the Browns. And, some real excitement here in the AFC North, guys. I mean, first time in a long time that, it's been a lot of excitement, I guess, for years with the Steelers and Ravens, but so much talk about the Browns this year and who's going to win this AFC North division. So, Mike, the Steelers in the preseason have got people's hopes up a lot, I think, and, see what happens here.
Well, the Steelers are just happy there's no drama in camp. Mr. Big Chest shipped out west to Oakland, and you see what's happening with him in that organization. And I think the Steelers are just really happy not to have to answer all those questions while they were at Latrobe and now ready to head to New England to play in their opener. And, guys need to step up and replace Brown and replace Bell. And the Browns definitely won this summer, that's for sure. They've assembled a pretty good AAU team there in Cleveland. And we'll see how they all mesh together with a second-year quarterback. And but the Steelers, again, with high expectations. But what else would we expect coming into the very beginning of the season?
And that's one of the big questions. I think, John, with Antonio Brown out in Oakland now, Le'Veon Bell with the Jets. The question is, the drama's definitely gone, but can the production be replaced? That those guys brought to the offense, and now maybe it's by committee to some degree.
Yeah, I think so. And the offensive line is stable for the Steelers. They ended up keeping, I believe, 9 linemen. Finney can come in and out wherever he wants to, wherever they want to play him. If they want to use him as super tight end, they can do that. When they go 6 linemen. But you still have Juju Smith-Schuster, who's able to take over the lead now. Now he's going to be doubled up. They're counting on big things from James Washington.
James Washington, great preseason. Hooking up a lot, though, with Mason Rudolph, of course, who was his college teammate. The question I have is, can he do it when Ben's on the field?
Yeah, well, Ben, remember, this is the guy that Ben called out last year. And everybody got upset when he called him out. And you hear the stories this year where Ben Roethlisberger says, well, James Washington texted me and came to my house, and we sat and we talked about it. We talked about where it may not happen with the other guy that's with the Raiders maybe for another week or so. But, you've got Washington who now has put in the extra work. Juju is there. James Conner's going to be out of the back. Samuels is another back that I think people are going to be surprised by. And then you got Benny Snell kind of hanging out, see what he does. Moncrief kind of concerns me a little bit.
Benny Snell is a guy that, you look at, a lot of people thought he might not make that roster. 4th round pick out of Kentucky and high expectations for him, but not the greatest preseason. But sometimes that happens to transition from college into the NFL, and hopefully he can provide some support as the season goes on, particularly maybe catching out of the backfield, things like that.
Holton. Everyone's a big fan of Holton in the preseason too. He's the guy that went on the practice squad. Yeah. And Marcus Allen. I mean, that's a guy who they drafted pretty high, and ends up on the practice squad this year.
Mike, one of the big questions that I think people have, 2 years ago, Chris Boswell, of course, great production, great year. And then last year, all those missed kicks and, had people really scratching their heads. And they brought in, Wright to kind of challenge him in the preseason. But Chris Boswell won the job and had a good preseason. How does that affect things this year,
Well, the kicker is the most important player on the field, as we all know, right?
Just ask him.
He seems that way when it comes down to the last minute of every NFL game, and they're lining up for a kick. Whether you switch it back and forth, when the 1 o'clock games are ending, there's a kick going to happen to win a 1 o'clock game before the 4 o'clock games. It happens every year. Cleveland had issues last year kicking, right? Wasn't it early on where they could have been 4-1 or something early on? We're 1-4, something like that. But the kicker is a huge deal, and I think more than a lot of people make it out to be. But I think Pittsburgh's going to be okay in that department this year. I really do.
Well, the Steelers are a playoff team if he makes 2 kicks.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, think of it that way.
Exactly.
That's the edge in these NFL games is.
But they also lost a bad game in Oakland.
Yeah,
as
sure.
usual,
There's other things, but if 2 kicks go their way, they're a playoff team.
So what do you guys think? I mean, of course, Steelers opened the big night game in Foxborough, played New England, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick right out of the gate. Steelers get a win in this opener, and what happens for the season?
I want to say this before that is a AFC championship tiebreaker game right there.
Absolutely.
Like, it could come down. Like, NFL games are so meaningful, whether it's game 1, game 6, game 8, game 12, it doesn't matter. Every game means something in NFL. This could be at the end of the year where we go back and look at this and say, well, they didn't have, maybe Demaryius Thomas doesn't play. What are they going to do without Gronk? That's the matchup that's killed them. This is a game that means more in the last 2 weeks of the season, and we don't even realize it. It's week 1.
So who wins it?
The Steelers win. No Gronk.
Pittsburgh is more suited to guard Gronk this year than ever, and Gronk is not there.
I agree.
I love Devin Bush at linebacker. I think he's going to be outstanding.
If he plays.
Second
on the depth chart.
Okay. He will be in there.
I guarantee it,
him
too.
and Watt and the 2 down tackles are unbelievable with Tuitt and Hayward. Pittsburgh's going to be a lot better than you think. But they're not going to win Sunday night. Are you kidding me? Beat New England 2 years in a row. They beat him at Heinz Field last year, and they're going to walk into New England and beat him again this year. I want to say it's going to happen. I'm a Steeler homer, but I'm an optimist. I know what's going to happen, so I'm bringing myself way down. And if they win, I'll be super happy. But if not, I said they were going to lose. So
I'll say Steelers on a Boswell field goal. He gets himself started off right this year.
There you
Boswell
go.
Field goal.
Remember, they didn't make the playoffs last year.
I know that.
Baltimore did. Won the division. So all the talk about Pittsburgh
let's
and
talk
Cleveland.
Let's talk about the other part of the division. Let's talk about the Browns for a minute. A lot of interest here, especially on the Ohio side of the river from the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield's where it starts, and ends with Cleveland perhaps, brought a lot of excitement to that franchise. But you got Landry and Odell Beckham now in a receiver, Nick Chubb in that backfield. The defense shaping up with Myles Garrett on the line, and you got Denzel Ward in the secondary that's a ball hawk. You know, what's this team do this year? I mean, they haven't had any really success in so long. Can it just happen now where all of a sudden they go out and win a division?
Well, they had success last year when Mayfield took over. Would have been 500 from off that ugly tie.
Yep.
They're much improved. I've been telling all my Browns friends, we'll see how they gel. We'll see how they gel. Ben's been under center for a lot of time, gelling with that offensive line in timing. Maybe not with Brown gone, but they're getting all those kinks worked out. It's going to take Cleveland some time, but they can certainly finish with 8 or 9 wins, dare we say. You're going more on the Browns.
Yeah, you got to go 10. Got to go 10
Wow.
with Cleveland.
And they're going to win the division?
No, the Steelers win the division
Right,
with
right.
11 wins.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like the Browns as a wild card team too. I think they find a way to get a wild card. I think Baker Mayfield's one of those guys that just has that special quality about him that can lift other players up and an entire franchise up. I think he'll do that. I don't think he'll be good enough to overtake the Steelers in the division, but I do think they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the Ravens are going to be third, and of course the Bengals are going to be last.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Wow.
And I think, you know, the big thing is Freddie Kitchens, never been the man there.
Right.
The guy from Glenville State, by the way, who got his first coaching job at Glenville State with Rick Trickett down there in 1999.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Before we take a break, Browns and Titans this week in Cleveland. Who gets the win?
Oh, it's an easy win for the Browns.
That's a Cleveland win. Although, just what you think's supposed to happen in the NFL goes the other way almost every time. So Titans win.
Right, former Steeler
You're
Mike
taking
Vrabel
Tennessee, huh?
with his first.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel was his first
game. Yep.
game as
And
head
the
coach.
I'll take Cleveland being a home game. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll keep talking about the NFL. We'll talk about a local guy, CJ Goodwin, who's on a roster, and also our playoff picks. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Recommended by the highest authorities. Danoon Lumber.
Looks like a bad one's coming. Yeah. Right?
Welcome back to the show. I've been talking NFL here with Wheelhouse Creatives, Mike Anthony and John Blackmore, and we'll stick with it. And guys, you know, a local guy in the NFL, CJ Goodwin from here in Wheeling on the Dallas Cowboys roster, makes the 53-man roster with some great, really special teams performances, and also an interception from the secondary in the preseason, fumble recovery on a punt. You know, around the ball. You're around the ball and make plays. You can make things happen and be on stick on the team.
Yeah, he's made that happen wherever he's been. He's climbed the depth chart before. He'll do it again, I'm sure. But his fourth year, he's vested in the league now. He'll get a pension. He'll get covered.
That's great.
And going forward in his life, he'll always have that.
Yeah.
I remember refereeing his basketball games, and he's in 5th and 6th grade, so kudos to CJ Goodwin. And I saw him around town a lot this summer doing kids' camps and things, and it's great to see him back in the NFL, but not on the Cowboys, although I will root for him every time we see the Cowboys.
CJ, really good guy, and I've had him on this show, and I've really enjoyed talking to him when he's been here. Let's talk about the playoffs a little bit. We'll start with the AFC. You know, I'll give you my picks. You know, in the East, I've got the Patriots. Just kind of tough to pick against them. I've got the Steelers of the North, as I said earlier in the show. In the South, I've got the Texans. It's one I'm not real sure about, but I'm going to go with the Texans.
No Indy?
No, you know, not with luck gone now. And then in the West, I struggle with. I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. I mean, I do like the Chargers getting a wild card berth, and I like the Browns getting the other wild card. But those are my picks for the AFC. John, what do you think?
AFC-wise, let's go with the Steelers and the Chiefs. Of course, the Patriots. I like.
Who comes out of that AFC South?
Jacksonville.
You like the Jaguars?
I like
They're going to go
Jacksonville.
from worst to first.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville.
I like Houston. Are you kidding me? With all that talent, I think they're going to finally put it together. Or Tennessee. Tennessee, 3 straight 9-7 seasons and playoff seasons.
Yep.
Everyone always overlooks them, but the Titans.
Clowney shipped out of town this week. Houston shipped Clowney. An interesting move there.
I still like the Texans to win that division and make the playoffs.
Who comes out of the AFC and gets the Super Bowl?
That's easy.
Kansas City.
Mike?
Yeah, it's easy. New England, they're going to win it again. They're going to win it again. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
Why wouldn't they?
I'll give you my Super Bowl pick in a minute here. Let's go to the NFC. In the East, I've got the Cowboys. A lot of people like the Eagles, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys in the East. I think this is just a year that they put it together and win that division. The North, I'm going to go with the Packers. It's a quarterback-driven league, and Aaron Rodgers is tough to pick against.
And new system.
For sure, yeah.
He could light it up.
The South, the Saints, kind of for the same reason. I mean, in the West, I'll take the Rams. I was really impressed with them last year. They got a lot of talent all over the place, like the coach. And for the wild card, I will go with the Eagles for the wild card in Seattle to get the other wild card there. John, who do you have?
I like the Eagles in the East. Of course, Green Bay in the North, the Saints, and then out West, it's going to be the Rams coming out of there. And Atlanta, it will be my wild card team with the Dallas Cowboys.
Just what you said, but the Saints all the way in the NFC. Although I think Dallas will be good as long as now that Zeke Elliott's back in action with his $50 million guarantee. So Dallas will be good as usual. Green Bay is going to be good. Right. I think the Saints are going to go to the Super Bowl against New England.
I tend to pick with my heart, but I'm going to go Steelers win the Super Bowl over the Rams.
79 rematch.
Yeah, that was a low-scoring game there in 79, if I remember correctly. But I'll take Steelers over the Rams. John?
I like, I hate to say it, but I'm going to go with the Saints, and I'm also going to go with the Chiefs, and I think the Saints win it.
Saints over Chiefs, Mike, and you had the Saints over Saints
of chalk.
You had Patriots win it?
I'll take Patriots to win another Super Bowl, and they're going to beat the Saints.
All right.
All right. I'd like to mention too that the Rams are 14-1, which is a steal if you're looking for to make a venture across to the island.
I always like teams that go a long way the year before. I always like, but don't win it. I always like them the following year. So I like that.
No one mentioned the Bears, although good defense. We'll see if they can get it turned around. But hard to beat the Packers in that division.
They're 12-1 to win. The Bears. They're
surprisingly high. If you said the word sleeper, I would say the Bears.
Yeah. But they've just been so vanilla and so bland over the last decade or two that I think that's what people have trouble saying, hey, and they just don't have Trubisky. I don't know.
It's sort of like that team in New England.
Don't have that elite
boring and bland.
Yeah, but just not
crossing routes and
they haven't shown they've got that elite quarterback that can get it done to me. Well, hey, guys, I really appreciate being here on the show. We'll keep an eye on this throughout the season, see what happens, and have some fun with it.
Go Steelers.
Hey, thanks for being here,
Thank
John.
you,
Mike,
sir.
thanks for being here.
No problem.
All right, we need to take a break. When we come back, I'll set up your college football Saturday. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
The Panhandle Difference.
It was a really easy process getting started with them, and then bam, it just took off. We've had a lot of gatherings here. We've had a whole basketball team. We've had lots of family dinners, birthday parties. I mean, I can't wait for holidays to come. It's a great kitchen. Honestly, it couldn't have turned out any better.
People in nursing homes are some of the most vulnerable members of our society. They're there because they can't take care of themselves. Those facilities have a duty to take care of our loved ones, and when they don't, it's important they're held accountable. We've not only collected record results against negligent nursing homes, but more importantly, we've helped so many families get the answers and closure they so badly needed.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk college sports, and we'll set out your college football Saturday here for you. First of all, 12 o'clock noon, the Mountaineers of WVU take on Missouri on ESPN2. And, I was down at the game in Morgantown last weekend against James Madison. Mountaineers were 6-point favorites, won by 7. I was really surprised at the Mountaineers' inability to run the football, given the offensive linemen that were back, the running backs that were back, but they were just abysmal running the football, just couldn't do it. Austin Kendall at quarterback, I thought a little bit shaky in his debut, missed some open throws, not the most accurate as I thought he would be. Defense had some holes. Much bigger test this week at Missouri, even though Missouri lost against Wyoming last week, really kind of a game they should have won. Kelly Bryant, the former Clemson quarterback, a quarterback from Missouri. Mountaineers are 2 touchdown underdogs in this game. Really surprised me. I know it's on the road and against an SEC team, but I think the running game gets fixed a little bit this week and contributes during this game in a much bigger way. I think WVU by a touchdown or less, but I think the Mountaineers go on the road and get this one done. Also at 12 o'clock, Cincinnati at number 5, Ohio State, right here on WTRF on ABC. Ohio State, very impressive in the Ryan Day debut. Got out to a really quick start, and Florida Atlantic caught up a little bit, but Justin Fields was sharp, the Georgia transfer at quarterback. Luke Fickell, the head coach at Cincinnati, the former Ohio State defensive coordinator. I don't think this game will be too big for him and his program, but I just think Ohio State has too much talent and ends up winning this one big. Then 3:30, also right here on WTRF on ABC, number 12, Texas A&M at number 1, Clemson. I talked about this game a couple weeks ago in the college football preview. Clemson, a lot of talent there. Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, Travis Etienne at running back. But I think the fact that Jimbo Fisher brings this Texas A&M team in, he coached at Florida State for a number of years, remember, went against Clemson a lot, very familiar with that program. Only a 2-point game last year. Of course, that was at Texas A&M, but I think Clemson doesn't go undefeated 2 years in a row. Tough to do. I mean, to win all those games in a row. I think this is the one that gets them this year. I think Texas A&M goes on the road and wins this one in Death Valley. Tough place to win, but I think A&M gets it done. Then at 7:30, ABC, big day here on WTRF. ABC also has number 6 LSU at number 9 Texas. Perhaps the game of the day. I like Tom Herman, the head coach at Texas a lot, former Ohio State offensive coordinator, and I'm not real crazy about Ed Orgeron down at LSU. I just don't think that Orgeron has the offensive mind to be able to put up his teams to put up a lot of points. They like to pound you, but I just think Texas, is primed for a big year. Sam Ehlinger at quarterback, they came off that big bowl win, last year. LSU is a 6.5-point favorite here at Texas. I like the home underdog in this one. I think Texas wins this. I think Texas is going to be a playoff team this year. I think they might lose a game down the road, perhaps to Oklahoma, but I think they win this one and really have a great season. Then 10:30, number 23, Stanford at USC. This game's interesting because both teams are perhaps without their starting quarterbacks. USC's JT Daniels tore his ACL last week. KJ Costello, questionable with a head injury for Stanford. Lots of stars, though, both teams. We'll see who shines. Stanford is built to run. USC, the faster team, but I'll take the Stanford strength over the USC speed. I'll take Stanford to win this one. Now I'm going to give you an upset special also. 7:30 on ESPN2, Tulane at number 10 Auburn. Tulane won 5 of its last 6 games last year, including its bowl game. Auburn was lucky to win last week to beat Oregon. They were down 21-6, roared back 3 touchdowns in a row to win 27-21, and everybody's going to have been telling the young quarterback all week how great he is, Nix. They're 17.5-point favorites. I think Tulane upsets them at Auburn to get a really, really big win and really put a dent into an SEC team's hopes for this year. I'm really surprised that Oregon didn't close that game out last week against Auburn. And I just don't think that Auburn just doesn't seem to make the plays when it needs to keep drives going. I'll take Tulane. That's all the time we have this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the start of the NFL season. We'll see you again next week on the Jamie Bordas Show.